All right. Well, looks like we have everyone that registered to be on our call this evening. So we can go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining us. My name is Nolan Groce. I'm with Urban Design Partners, representing Arbo LLC on rezoning petition 2024-075. This is located at 7852 Arboretum Drive in the city of Charlotte. The request for this petition is to rezone the site from O15 conditional to CAC1. That's an office zoning district to a community activity center 1. On your screen, you can see an image of the site from approximately 2022 when it was operated as a PNC bank. General housekeeping items. We do have a smaller crowd this evening. Feel free to utilize the chat box during the presentation to ask questions. At the end of the presentation, we will open up the question and answer session portion of the meeting. And since we do have a smaller crowd, feel free to come off mute and we can have a casual dialogue about the petition and about the site. Here's an aerial of the 1.4 acre site located east of Providence Road on the northern side of Pineville Matthews Road on the western side of the intersection with Arboretum Drive. Here's an additional aerial imagery of the site as it exists today. The site was zoned O15 CD as part of a rezoning petition 1986-112. There's an existing 6,300 square foot structure, along with parking spaces, 2 driveway connections to Arboretum Drive, and ancillary landscaping and buffers. Sorry, thought I froze. The intent of the rezoning petition is to change the zoning to CAC1, the Community Activity Center. But the purpose and the intent is to use the site as a dental office, which is not allowed under the current zoning. So what is zoning? Why are we here this evening having a community meeting? Zoning is the city's method of classifying land by usage. It promotes development in a smart, reliable fashion. This chart shows current zoning districts under the City of Charlotte Unified Development Ordinance, from least intensive place types or zoning districts to most. So you have Neighborhood 1 and Neighborhood 2, which are predominantly residential districts, to NC, Neighborhood Center, ML, Manufacturing and Logistics, all the way up to TODs, which are transit-oriented developments. In North Carolina, there are 2 types of rezoning petitions, what's known as a conventional rezoning and a conditional rezoning. Through this petition, we are requesting a conventional rezoning, which will allow the use of the property as prescribed in the CAC1 zoning district. A few additional important planning related items. First being the Charlotte 2040 Comprehensive Plan. The comprehensive plan is a living policy document providing framework to help guide decision-making and investment in the near and long term. There's the Charlotte Unified Development Ordinance, or the UDO. The UDO simplified and consolidated planning and development regulations into a unified document aligned with the vision of the 2040 plan. There's also the 2040 policy map. This is a future land use map identifying land uses that are most suitable for future development. Here's a current City of Charlotte zoning map of the area. As I mentioned, the site is zoned Office O15 CD from the 1986 entitlement. To the north, you can see an R15 multifamily conditional. There's also R9 and R8 PUDs, O1 CD, B1 SCD, and MUD O to the southwest. as well as N1A, the lone current UDO district on the screen. The rest are leftover conditional districts from the zoning ordinance. Here we have the Charlotte Future 2040 policy map. The site is identified as a community activity center, making the rezoning petition consistent with the 2040 plan. In the area, there are also N1, Neighborhood 1, and Neighborhood 2 place types, as well as additional community activity center to the west and to the south of Pineville Matthews Road. Here we have two snips from Table 15-1 in the Unified Development Ordinance. This is the use matrix. The Community Activity Center is intended for predominantly commercial uses. And in this case, on the right side of the screen, you can see that a medical and dental office is a permitted use in the CAC1 zoning district, which is the intended use of the site. Here's our tentative timeline for rezoning petition 2024-075. This evening, August 7th, 2024, we are holding our petitioner community meeting. A public hearing is anticipated for September 16th, 2024, which will be followed by a zoning committee meeting and recommendation on October 1st of this year, with an ultimate city council decision of October 21st of this year. Now, this is subject to change, either a month or 2 months as needed, if additional coordination is needed with council members, members of the public, community leaders. We may need to defer the public hearing or defer the zoning committee meeting. So this is our best case scenario timeline, but again, it is subject to change. Here's my contact information. Again, my name is Nolan Groce with Urban Design Partners. Happy to meet with anyone offline after the meeting if there's any additional questions or follow-up needed. My email address is ngroce@urbandesignpartners.com, or you can give me a call at 704-334-3303. That being said, I'll go back to an aerial of our site plan, and we can go ahead and have a casual conversation about this. Mr. George, do you have any questions for us this evening?
Yeah, I do. Well, first of all, how many people are on the call here? It looks like only 5.
Yes,
right?
there are 5. There's myself and Brian Smith with Urban Design Partners, as well as the petitioner, Mr. Porter with Arbo LLC.
Okay, so first of all, I'd like to ask, is PNC still operating out of that building or not?
No, sir. And that's where I wanted to provide this updated imagery. It's a little bit hard to see, but the signs from PNC are no longer on this structure. Whereas in the first picture, this image is from 2022, when the bank was being operated. But no, it is not currently being operated by PNC Bank.
Okay. It is kind of an unusual site. You would adjoin an N2 neighborhood, the Arboretum Apartments. Um, you're part of I guess you would call it, you're in the northeast quadrant of the Arboretum development. The northwest quadrant is all medical and dental office buildings with some office thrown in, and apparently some space available there. And I don't know whether you're aware, but not that long ago, several years ago, MPV, which is a medical office developer, applied for and received permission to build a medical/office building directly across from Providence Springs, where I'm on the board of that HOA. And they're currently now under construction. My first question is, with all this space available, especially the MPV project going forward right now, why do you need additional? Why is there a demand for this particular site to be a dental office?
Sure. And Ed, I don't know if you want to speak to this particular location and why it best suits your business. Um, or Brian, if you want, if you have information on that as well.
I mean, I think I would just add that, the petitioner is gonna, is gonna be the operator here. I mean, it's for his practice. So,
I know, but there's what I'm trying to do. I live in Providence Springs, which is N1, N1A, right? And we have a long history of being involved in rezonings in the area. And at one point, the MPV property, which is directly across Providence Road from our entrance, was they proposed to use it as a kiddie academy, and we defeated that project. I think John Carmichael at Robinson Bradshaw was on the other side, and they were successful, however, very and just by one vote in getting approval to build a medical office building directly across from us. So what I'm wondering is there really a need in this particular area for additional medical office space? And let me also add that I'm involved in a rezoning with Daniel Levine and Northwood Raven, Horizon also at International Way, and they're proposing to build office space up there, and some of it may or may not be medical, along with 2,000 residential units. So we are very quickly uh, turning this corridor into a very densely used corridor. So I'm wondering, with space available, especially with the MPV property right across from us, which is under construction right now, why is there a need for more medical office space?
So yeah, I'm aware of some of the petitions that you've mentioned. I believe I was at a few of the meetings, maybe when there were public hearings.
Mhm.
Ultimately, with our client being a dental office a dentist
Mhm.
operating a business, he saw this site as a practical location to open a
Mhm.
facility and better assist his current clients and future clients of the area.
Well, it's
I
got to
understand.
integrate. It's they take a holistic approach to this, as you know, Nolan. It's you're not just an isolated parcel. Uh, One of the things that concerns me about this is, well, I have two major concerns. One, of course, the Publix, which is being constructed right now at the corner of Providence Road and 51. There's an exit right across from you, and I don't know. Maybe you can tell me. I don't. That rezoning occurred probably at least 5 years ago, and I don't. There was some talk about putting a traffic light in to facilitate people going in and out of the what amounts to the southeast quadrant of the Arboretum. How is that going to affect you? Uh, have you been advised that perhaps a traffic light would be appropriate there, or uh, are the developers of the Publix, are they required to put in a light?
That that's a great question. I am not sure. I can definitely look into that and follow up with you after our meeting and get an answer on that though. But I'm not
Otherwise,
aware of the
this is going to be a
notification.
very, very congested intersection right here. And I've
Mhm.
actually, I have to admit, sometimes when the traffic is really heavy on Providence Road going to 51, I cut through the Arboretum apartments, and coming out of that exit there, where your site is a pure adrenaline rushing through my veins when I do that. If I'm making a left turn, it's pretty hard to do. Uh, I would think at the very least you're going to need some sort of you're going to need to respond to the traffic congestion at that particular intersection. Now, the other thing that concerns me greatly is that uh, things change. Certainly in our city, things change overnight. What if, for some reason, whatever building you're proposing to build either doesn't get built or does get built and then later on gets torn down? You don't have a conditional rezoning here, so you're really not tied to anything. You're going for CAC one, which is of course right below RAC, which is Regional Activity Center, and it's of course what the Arboretum would be if there wasn't already CD restrictions. So hey, you could put up a 7-story office building there if you wanted to, if you get your general CAC one rezoning. Hey, you won't need to go back to anybody. You can replace that building with a 7-story office building. So
But
why wouldn't you want to go for classification like CG uh, CD? Why did you ever consider that?
yeah, so the intent is to utilize the existing building that's on site on screen today,
Hmm.
not build new, not tear down. Utilize the existing structure, retrofit it, of course, internally to fit the use of transferring from a bank to a dental facility. In coordination with planning staff, looking at the proposed use, looking at the site and the general area, looking at the 2040 policy map and the use that we're looking to
Hmm.
utilize and operate under, since it is a permitted use under the CAC1 zoning district, and this parcel is identified as a community activity center. They thought it made sense and they agreed that a conventional petition would be the right path forward for this proposal.
Yeah,
Well, I
like
guess
you said, this building is not going to be torn down. It's just going to be renovated, create a new facade so it's not as outdated, and then converted into an owner occupied dental office. So the owner is the dentist. So he doesn't want to lease, he wants to own. So again, he's not a major developer that's can come in and tear it down and build a 10-story office building like in Valentine. This is basically this is his retirement.
no, I understand all that, and I certainly wouldn't want to stand in the way of that. But you've got to think of all the competing uses for that particular area and the fact that it is on a very busy corridor. So, the traffic light, I think, is going to be number one on the list of things that I'd like to talk to the planner about. So that's number one. Max, I think Owens, yeah, he took over from John Kinley. I'm going to have a talk and set up a meeting, I think, with them and see what they think. But uh, it's not or it's not your client that I'm terribly worried about. What I'm worried about is things change. We've just had an historic structure, the airport, torn down, despite the Landmark Commission saying don't do it. Things around here change on a dime. They change all the time. So I'm not worried about the first couple of years. I'm worried about what happens in the future, particularly if you get a conventional CAC1 rezoning. I think that is problematic. If your intention is not to change the footprint of this building, then CD is the way to go, and CG would be that would be what I would like to see rather than CAC1. CAC1 is a very dense. You've got CAC2, which really requires underground parking, but that's about the only difference. But you could put a 7-story office building in there, and it's not appropriate on that particular site. Maybe in the southwest quadrant where the Arboretum is, I'm sure it's in time. Um, when the CD designations all are challenged, I'm sure that we will see some 7-story office buildings. But this particular site right next to the Arboretum Apartments, which is more of a residential area, um, I don't think it's appropriate to get the CAC one. That's just my feeling. Now I don't know how others feel. Uh, this is just the very beginning of looking at this. Got your notice in the mail not too long ago. So I haven't given it a lot of thought. We haven't really organized any people to look at it. I know people in Beverly Crest are a little bit concerned about this. Of course, they were involved in the MPV rezoning, and that was a major rezoning for us, at least. It had a detrimental impact on Beverly Crest, on Candlewick, and Providence Springs, and it's just an eyesore. And I don't really want to have more encroachment uh, of commercial office buildings, more than we've already seen in this particular quadrant of the Arboretum. So I think you're biting off a lot more than I think is appropriate. I would just hope that you'd give some thought to maybe not asking for CC1.
Yeah, sure. And if you'd like to meet with planning staff, we're happy to jump on a call and schedule that to look at the policy map, to talk about, planning staff's in
Mhm.
future intended, what is their vision for this property? What is their vision for the area? And, get to finding why exactly was this identified as CAC1 in the 2040 policy plan.
Well, when they did the place types, the mapping, actually this whole corridor, I mean this whole quadrant, the northeast quadrant was designated as CAC. And actually, it was me who contacted the place type people and said, "Look, you've got apartments there that really should legitimately be N2," and they changed it. They changed it to N2. So you're sort of an island in the middle of N2, um, and so I don't think it's appropriate. But I'm happy to sit down and talk with you, and we can get Max. We'll get him. We'll set up a Zoom meeting with Max and talk about it.
Yeah, we're happy to do it. And like you mentioned, we're early in the process. We're having
Right.
the community meeting. There's many more steps to go, and we're happy to have future dialogue and continue engaging with the community.
Well, my ultimately, if you were to apply for CGCD, wouldn't that take care of the immediate needs of the person who's buying this property?
Theoretically, yes. After coordinating with the planning department, they would like to see the CAC1 here. So I think that's a bigger conversation that would need to be have with planning staff.
Okay. Well, those are my two issues. I think you're overly aggressive on asking for CAC1. I think this is an island in N2, and I don't want to see more encroachment uh, by CAC1 in this particular area because it's pretty congested. We're not talking about South Park. If we were talking about South Park, that'd be a whole different thing. But this is not South Park. And the entire area up and down Providence Road is changing dramatically. And with the Connery, the MPV project, with Publix being built at the corner there, and going further north, Alexander Apartments, Alexander and Ray, all of these I've been involved in all of them. And then you go up to Daniel Levine's project at International Way, which is going to involve thousands of so much retail space that it's going to be the equivalent of Carmel Commons. That's how much he's discussing with the city about, and 2,000 residential units. So we've densifying is one thing, but densifying too much is not something I want to see. I've lived here since 1998, and it's changed pretty dramatically. But and then we did away with the entire concept of density, and we've adopted place types. But as you probably know, place types don't mean a damn thing for the city council. They when they changed the designation for the MPV property, it was R3, which would be N1A,
Mhm.
and they had no problem changing it to commercial. So they give lip service to place types. In other words, place types have somehow been the equivalent of a check and balance on density, but it's not really. Um, I've had that conversation with a lot of different city council members, and also the zoning committee chair, Douglas Welton. So, you know, you're biting off a lot here. I just wish it already exists. It's an island in N2. I would love to see you scale back your expectations. Instead of getting the CAC designation, I'd love to see you go for CG CD. I think this is an appropriate place for CD zoning. And also, we'd have to deal with the issue of the traffic light. And as you know, in the city of Charlotte, at least it, I've been told for many years that about 80% of all traffic lights are a result of rezonings. So it's an issue you're going to have to look at. In fact, I and one other individual were responsible for the traffic light at Beverly Crest that goes into Candlewick. So that one, you know, was as a result of a rezoning of Vizcaya or whatever that development is. So as you know that could be a factor, you know, putting in a traffic light. So
Sure. And yeah, being an existing building, we're not looking at the intended use
For traffic
transferring
count.
from the current use. We'd have to
Yeah.
work with CDOT and look at traffic counts, and would the change of use provide an increase in traffic that would warrant that being part of this development through the permitting process. But as you mentioned, through the rezoning process, yes, that is a common question, traffic and concerns.
yep. So there's a lot to be done here, and we're at the very beginning stages. I always, along with me and several other people who have been involved in many of these rezonings, our effort is always to make it work. We're not. I don't think we've ever actually stopped a project. Well, except for Kitty Academy, where the MPV site is now. We did bring that to a halt, but we knew that it would be developed at some point, and it was. So, and being involved in the Connery, which was a Prophet Dixon, you may know that one. Uh, it's up uh, beyond Ray in Alexander, and then the Alexander Apartments. We were involved in that pretty thoroughly, me and several other people. So we get involved in these things, and I'm certainly going to bring them in, the group of people that I normally talk to. We will evaluate it, and I think we need to have a conversation with Max. And to be honest, the way we typically do this, we're more than happy to sit down and talk with you independently of planning. But when we have a meeting with planning, we have a meeting with planning. We don't invite the developer to come because we want to explore what their thinking is without having the developer present. Uh, I mean, I'm happy to have other meetings with you outside of planning, but not with planning. And that's been what we've typically done for the last 10 years. That's how we do it, and it seems to work pretty well. I think, for example, with Daniel Levine, he's been working on this project at International Way for probably 2 years or more, and we probably had 5 or 6 meetings, and that's Northwood Raven as well. And what they're proposing is really massive, and it's gonna really revolutionize all of Providence Road, and it's going to have an impact for miles. So, all of these things have to be considered together. It's up till now, it's been typical for each project to be viewed on its own in terms of traffic, density, and everything else. But with the place types being introduced, I think it's pretty clear that they're looking for something broader than that. So, you know, we it the old way of doing this would be to consider each project independent of all the others, and that has fallen out of favor. That's not how they do it now. Um, Technically, they do look at the use, and they determine whether or not there's going to be increased traffic produced by this particular project, but they also look at the entire corridor. So things are different now. That's about all I got.
All right. Well, we appreciate you being on. We appreciate your feedback and the historic knowledge of the area and your involvement in rezoning petitions. And, again, happy to meet with you, whether that's before or after your meeting with the planning department, and continue the dialogue about this petition.
Absolutely. We're open to discussing everything, really. Everything's on the table. So let me do this. I'll contact Max and see if I can set up a meeting with him. I need to talk to him about the Levine project anyway. And so I'll give you a call.
That sounds great, sir. I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Okay, thanks so much.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Nolan, you still there?
I am. I'm going to stop the recording.
Mike, hang on.